I came home and I told my husband, I love you with all my heart, and I'll forever be grateful God brought us together. But I have no purpose in life no more. I was so discouraged and I was so depressed that I could not see past every day.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Soul Sense Podcast. We have a special guest today, Mia Godfrey. And I just want to introduce Mia. She's a certified life coach. She's a speaker and author. And her life story is really marked by resilience, loss, but rebuilding. She was raised under communist rule in Romania, and she immigrated alone to the United States when she was 27 years old. Went through some really significant losses she's going to tell us about, became the primary caregiver for her sister, and then she wrote a book about all this called Buried, Not Broken, a Memoir of Survival, Sisterhood, and Starting Over. So welcome, Mia, to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Mark.
So glad to have you. And would you just tell us a little about your story? We want to get to know you and hear kind of what your foundation is.
Yes. So, like you mentioned, I was born in Romania. I am the youngest of 10 children.
Youngest of 10.
And under the communist regime, everything was extremely restricted, including our food. So as my parents used to work extremely hard, my father was a manager at a construction company. My mom used to clean trains at night, and during the day she used to take care of us. But no matter how hard they worked, seems like the food was never enough. There were times we ate once, sometimes twice a day, but that was so normal for us. I remember during the communist regime, even our hair in school, our hair before he turned 14, it had to be extremely short. And everybody was saying, well, that's for cleanliness. But the truth was that was one way that we were controlled. They say you have to do that, so we did it. So because the life was so harsh, my father and actually the majority of adult males that we knew, they had like a moonshine distillery. It was not legal, so they were hiding it. And my father built a special room in the back. So that was one way that he coped with what was going on. Because as a father, he tried so hard to protect us and provide for us. But he did the best he could with the tools he had. Well, because of that, I was around a lot of moonshine, a lot of alcohol.
Sure.
So when I lost my father, I was 18 years old and I did not know how to cope with it. So I turned towards alcohol, and I actually left home when I was 18 years old just because I did not want to bring shame to my family. My mom was known as the prayer warrior in our church, in our neighborhood, and here I was, the youngest of 10. I did not want to bring her shame. So from there, I made a lot of bad decisions, but God had mercy on me, and I was able to come back to him. And yes, I met my husband. He came to visit Romania on a mission trip, and we got engaged, and I came to America in 2008 to marry here as well, to make it legal here. So that's my short version of my journey from Romania to the United States.
Wow. And I'm sure there's a lot of things you could fill in the blanks with, but we're just going to stick with that. What was it like to transition from Romania to the United States in 2008? Was it an adventure? Was it scary? Was it exciting?
It was extremely hard. I remember the first 6 months of marriage, we both sat down and talked. I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I can survive it here. I, Maybe it's a better idea for me to go back home. Those were conversations that in our marriage in the first 6 months we had, because I was used to with having a big family. I was used to with having friends. I had a job that I absolutely loved, and I moved from there to a country that I barely knew English. And I had no driving license. And I said, oh, I'll walk to the stores. Little did I
Oops.
know I could not walk to any stores. And as everything was absolutely amazing, for example, my first trip to Walmart, it was like a child in the candy store. I've never seen a store of that size before. So, as a lot of things that were absolutely a dream, it was extremely hard as far as the loneliness, not having friends and not having my family. But it came with a lot of lessons.
Tell me about some of the lessons.
Oh, one of the biggest lessons that I've learned that somebody to be family, they don't need to be blood. um, that God sends people into your life every chapter in our lives. God sent people to help us, to embrace us, to love on us, to support us, to share their wisdom with us. And if we're not willing to accept that, yes, it will be lonely. Yes, it will be depression. But we have to pay attention to who God sends to our life and for what reason. So I've learned to sit in silence a lot and ask myself, Lord, what do you want me to learn from this chapter? Because life is full of good and not so good chapters, but there's a lesson in every single one of them.
That's so beautiful, Mia. I think there's so much for us to learn there. Tell us about what happened in your marriage and with your husband.
My first marriage, a lot of people used to say that I was a modern day Cinderella because I came from a small village that you couldn't even find it on the map. But the way God orchestrated for us to meet, it was absolutely nothing that a divine intervention because it was nearly impossible for us to meet otherwise. And yeah, we had 7 years, and we realized after a few years of marriage that we couldn't have kids, and we both really wanted to become parents. So in 2015 we looked into adoption in May, um, and my husband actually passed away a month later after we
A
started the
month
paperwork.
later.
So that was another of those lessons. God, what do you want me to learn from this? Because that's what we prayed for 7 years. And then I end up like having to start over in a sense that I didn't even know how to pay my own bills. Because in Romania, I only pay cash. I came to the United States. My husband said, oh, you don't need to worry about where the bank is or how
Sure.
to pay the bills. It's my responsibility. And I had a job, I was working, but I just didn't really care to go look, check, none of that. So was um, a new chapter of relearning everything because I tried to go back home to Romania, but it turned out that I lost my citizenship, which I did not know that until after I lost my husband. Apparently, the paperwork that we submitted was the wrong paperwork, but again,
How
God,
did
God
you,
had a plan.
Mia, how did you make it through the grieving and the sudden loss of your husband? Did you have a lot of support? Did you have
So,
church support?
only through God's grace. Um, what happened like 3 months we didn't had a home church, and for 7 years we visited multiple churches. We went over 22 churches, and
Wow.
he was a lieutenant for the police department. Said, well, he didn't had a whole lot of time, so I said, well, I don't want to go to church if you're not going to church. So it was a few years of that battle. And 3 months prior to his passing, we went to visit Clear Springs. And out
Okay.
of nowhere, he grabbed my hand and said, we're walking to the altar, we're joining today. Which I was like, just can we talk about it? Can we? Like, so no, he just got up and started walking. So I immediately, start following him.
Okay.
And I believe with all my heart that God knew that I needed that community. because that is what helped me get through it. Because again, like, it was so unexpected. He was 42 years old. They said it was a heat stroke. It was so unexpected that um, it took a while for the shock to wear off. But
It must
there were
have.
people from that church that they were coming for about 6 months straight. They used to come and leave either cards or food or just leave them at the door and then walk away because they
Wow.
knew I was not going to open the door. I was so, I don't know if the sheltered is the right word, but in Romania, we were taught not to show emotion. Emotion
Okay.
was a sign of weakness.
Okay.
So in order not to show emotion, I just closed off from the world and closed off from the people. And now when I look back, I don't think I know I wouldn't be here today if God's people wouldn't have stepped up in the community to help me uh, walk that journey with me.
I'm so thankful they did. I'm so thankful for that. It warms my heart to hear those stories, Mia. What was that the first year? A lot of time probably alone or at home in those first 6 months, even though you got a lot of support. But how did you walk it out over that next year or two or three?
Oh, it was not easy. I surrounded myself with people who can give me um, help me. I
Okay.
remember one story that some of my friends still laugh about it. A few months after he passed, I walked outside and I saw for the first time that the grass was took over the yard. I
Yeah.
haven't touched the mower like ever.
Hmm.
Um, and I said, I can do this. I can do this. So about 2 months after his passing, and I went in the shed. I knew that's what, but I didn't know absolutely nothing about mowing the grass. I did not know that I needed to gas or whatever it was. And I
Sure.
was there and I was
Sure.
just trying to crank it and I start crying. I said, this is impossible. I cannot get it to start. I just can't. And I was just crying and I sat down in the grass and I said, well, I don't know what to do. And next thing, I heard mowers, and the two people came from each side of the house with mowers. And one lady came to me and said, "It's okay, just go inside." So neighbors in the community, they came together and they end up mowing my grass because somebody saw me crying in the yard trying to crank it up. And then they explained, look, you have to check to make sure that they have what it needs. So um God truly, truly sent his angels to help me every step of the way. And as from a spiritual level, um, I had somebody, I didn't believe in counseling, Bible
Uh-huh.
counseling,
Hmm.
therapy, life coaching, none of that.
Hmm.
Because again, to me, that was a sign of weakness. You only talk to
Sure.
God. But they also made sure that I was able to see somebody to help me walk through it, to say, hey, it's okay to show emotion and it's okay to cry,
That's
because the
good.
bigger the love, the bigger the grief you will feel. So from every single angle, God truly took care of it.
So really, you got help not just with the practical, but you
Yes.
got help for your heart too.
Yes. Yeah.
That is so beautiful. And so that was way back in, did you say 2015 that happened?
Yes. He passed away in 2015 in June.
Now tell us about how your sister came into the story because we know at some point you were the primary caregiver for her during her
Hmm.
cancer.
Yes.
Tell us
So
about that.
um, I thought I experienced grief and I thought I knew, I overcome it, not the
Mhm.
best way possible. But
Sure.
when what happened to my sister, it was a truly wake up call that changed the trajectory of my life. So I remarried in 2020.
Okay.
with my wonderful husband. His name is Kenny, and he has two wonderful children, which I adopted. They're adults, but it still counts. Um,
Sure.
so in 2021, one of my sisters, the one that's only was 13 months older than me, she married with a pastor from Montana. So she traveled from Romania to Montana, and they married. Well, they were married 2 years, and in 2023, um, she got diagnosed with ovarian cancer. Well, her husband had four little children, and he had a full time job. So they asked me if I can come and help. So I will forever thank God for my husband that he was okay with that. For 11 months, I
Mm,
traveled back um,
wow.
to Montana, and I came back to Tennessee once a month in the weekend to see my family. And my husband traveled to Montana once a month to see me. But I stayed there to become her caretaker. During that, it's when she said, um, I learned really fast that not to talk things at surface. No movies, no soap opera, no what happened in the news. We stopped watching news. We just talked about lost dreams. We talked about the legacy we wanted to live in the world. And she's the one who said that we we said so many times when we were kids that whatever happened to us, we'll take it to the grave. She said, but what if our story can impact somebody? So while she was sick, we started putting some stories together from our childhood. And when she passed away, before she passed away in November of 2023, she asked me if I can please bring our story to life. And that's how Buried Not Broken came to life,
That's how the memoir came, Buried Not Broken.
to honor my sister.
I'm so thankful that you got to spend that precious time with her. And yes, thank you, Kenny, also for all of your support. Now you have another grief. I suppose you were grieving those last few months together, weren't you?
Yes.
Could you tell us about that? It's different when you grieve together, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, it is. Like I said, I experienced grief before, but when my sister passed, I remember that I came home after 11 months of taking care of her 24/7. I came home and I told my husband, I love you with all my heart, and I'll forever be grateful God brought us together. But I have no purpose in life no more. I was so discouraged and I was so depressed that I could not see past every day. So
Yep.
my husband and my pastor encouraged me to see a therapist. Again, I didn't believe that was the first time ever. I said, nope, nope, I'm good. But I was so at the breaking point. I couldn't sleep, didn't want to eat. I lost my purpose. And this therapist, you could tell um, God was working through her. She said, have you thought about writing what to follow, to fulfill her wish? And I said, no, I don't even know where to start. And she said, how about writing it? Write it in your journal. So about 3 months into it, she said, can I see what you wrote? And my therapist and my husband both say you need to publish that. So that's
Wow.
just raw what I put on the piece of paper. Um, why the grief was different. Mona, my sister, was the person who knew me before the world did.
Hmm.
She knew every single part of me. She knew every single secret. She knew every time when I fell and I walked through addiction, instead of judging me or telling me, sis, you're destroying your life, she always hugged me and she says, sis, I know you're battling some demons that I don't understand, but I want you to know that I'm always going to love you. I'm always going to be hold space for you. And I said, it's not my job to change you, but I pray that the Holy Spirit will help you through it. And I've never felt judged by her, ever,
Well,
because addiction comes with so much shame,
it does.
so much shame, but a lot of times comes with a lot of judgments from the people who's supposed to love us the most. And from her, she was the one that walked that journey with me. She didn't agree with it, but I always knew she didn't judge me and she loved me every step of the way. She was the first call every morning and the last call every
Yeah,
single day. So
that's
that's why the
beautiful.
grief was so different, because I felt like I lost my best friend. I lost that sense of comfort. And when she asked me to write the book, I thought she wanted me to continue her legacy. But all along, I think she knew that that book is going to bring me healing, and that book is going to show me that I need to turn to God. Because here I was in my 40s, and I was still like, I need my sister. I need to talk to I need to, um, and I value her opinion more than anybody's. And through her death, I've learned now that their life is too short. Life is too short for us not to try to make a difference. And it completely changed the trajectory of my future.
It really did. I mean, you began the counseling, the journaling, the writing. Now you're encouraged to publish it, which you did. I'm assuming, what, in 24 or 25 you did that?
Um, yeah, I published it actually this year in March.
Oh, in
That's when
March
I
of this
published it.
year. Oh,
Yeah.
good job. Okay, that's wonderful. Tell us, how did you move towards being a certified coach?
So I saw the difference my therapist did in my life. I was ready to give up. I was ready to say, I'm done. And they just started a Bible counseling program in our church. So I walked there to the professor and I said, what do I need to do to get certified? And said, well, Mia, we're sorry, but you're kind of like 3 months late. We started 3 months ago. I said, what if I catch up by midterms and I do all the exams? And he smiled. He had that exactly same. And he said, well, if you want to give it a try. So within 3 months, I read all all the books. I did all the assignments, and by midterms, I was completely caught up with everybody else. So I was able to take the midterms with everybody because God put that fire within me. I said, I want to make a difference, and we know the life is short. We
Yes.
know that. And we know
Yes.
that we have no guarantee tomorrow. And we
Yes.
wait. We wait for the kids to go to college, to have more time, to have more money. We wait. We wait. But life doesn't wait. So that's what I was like, no, no, no. I'll, I'll catch up. So I got certified in Bible counseling. I started taking clients. And then something else happened. Lord put a different fire in my heart. I knew there were a lot of people who got hurt by church because I left church and I was out of the church for at least 4 years. And then I came to the United States and I was kind of just going, but not really being a member, didn't want to commit. And I've learned through therapy it was because I had so much hurt and I was scared of being hurt again. I was scared to let people to come close. It had nothing to do with God. So I told my professor, I want to start praying that God will bring into my life people that are suffering in silence, people who's been churched by other people, and a lot of times it does happen. It's in church.
Yes.
So I told them I'm going to get a life coaching certification that's accredited or worldwide because I wanted to reach people from my country as well.
Sure.
So once I graduated that program, God opens the door for me to start doing retreats. So I'm doing the first retreats in August. So I see God keep adding things like if you're willing, He will bring it to you,
Yes.
the opportunities.
Yes, he will. And Mia, more than most of us, you've experienced through your beloved husband and your beloved sister that life is short to take every day on its own merit and not put things off that, that involve love or the Lord or
Yeah.
serving him and serving his, his the kingdom. um, Tell us a little bit about what you've been learning these last few years about, and you had to do it at least twice, but just how do you just rebuild, your daily structure when your life has completely fallen apart? Just the most basic thing. How do you begin to pick yourself up? We know part of that answer is the support you got, and that
Yes.
was so helpful. But what else could you tell us about that, just practically, Mia?
Well, I do different. I have my own little rituals, if you could call them that. Every single
Okay.
morning before my feet touch the ground, I pray. I pray. It's like, Lord, I don't have it in me, but I want you to give me the wisdom, give me the grace to be able to love people, meet them where they're at, hold space for them. But I want every decision to be for the greater good and to show you love. So before I my feet touch the ground, that's a prayer. But I've learned that through years, my prayer changed where it's not just centered on me. Because the more we give to others and the more we love others, the more we support others, the more we realize that there's so many people that need love because they're suffering in silence. So when I start changing my prayer, help me to bless somebody today, I realized that my attitude changed, my outlook of life changed. So I'm starting with prayer and with a grateful heart every single morning. And I always make a habit to tell at least one person a kind word or a compliment because I knew how hard it was when I was going through that journey, through that battle, how hard it was to allow people to come in. And Lord, show me that if I'm not open to embrace and help others, why would I expect for others to do the same?
Sure. Mia, it seems like you've done like a 180-degree turn from the culture you grew up in, where emotions are to be suppressed, denied, or hidden behind closed doors. What's it like for you today? And how do you encourage others to actually allow those tears to flow?
Yes.
Allow those emotions.
So I've learned how important and how powerful vulnerability is, especially after I write my story and everything is so raw and so deep about our um, childhood. What I've seen ladies that I would have never met. I had a lady calling me from Slovenia, one from Australia, one from
Whoa.
Mexico, and they simply reached out and said, I can relate with your story. Thank you for sharing it. And
Oh,
that was
wow.
not something like few years back. I was like, there's nobody's business. Why would I come as a woman that I feel like pretty successful at work? Why would I
Right.
come and tell the world I used to be an addict? It makes no
Mhm.
sense. Why would I
Mhm.
do that? That's my image
Mhm.
that I worked for, and I worked in covering it up and
Yes.
portrayed this image for so long. Why would I do that? But now when I see how many people that are actually struggling with exactly what I was struggling with, but too many times we let the pride hinder us, we let the pride holding us back. But I made a promise that if there is one person that changes their life and they can actually get something out of that book to that will help them step into their identity, step into their purpose, then it's worth it. Because yes, I've been an addict and I am not proud of it, and I used to be so ashamed of it. But now I'm looking at, Lord, use that story because you brought me back. I am not there anymore. And that to me is a story of resilience and triumph that only God can do that.
You were absolutely right. You are absolutely right. It's a great testimony Mia, when you were in the throes of addiction, and I suppose it sounds like mostly that was in Romania to a great extent, what, how much despair was there? Was it like, oh, I'll never get out of this, I'll never get free? What's it like to be in that kind of place?
Well, for a longest time, it was not that. It was more like, oh, I'll get away with it. I know how to hide it. Oh, it
Okay,
was a
okay, okay.
sense of pride that, look at me, everybody thinks I'm that, like, um, the prayer warrior, because that's what they call my mom. Oh, I'm her daughter. And everybody looked at me as following my mother's steps.
I
And I
see.
became so good at hiding it that I start taking it as a pride. Look, nobody will know. Look how good I'm doing. I'm half
Oh,
drunk and nobody could tell. So in the beginning was more like very, very prideful.
okay.
Well, fast forward a few years, I got into one relationship that it was extremely abusive physically. And that's when I started asking, it's like, what am I doing to my life? It's got to be more than this. And then I broke up in that relationship and I met somebody else and we got engaged. And he was extremely abusive as well. And that's when I start asking those questions. It's got to be more to life than just me constantly trying to hide who I was. I was at the point, I was like a chameleon. I was what everybody else wanted me to be because I was so used to hiding my identity that I completely lost myself. And I can honestly say that even through my husband's passing, I was still trying to be everything for everybody. I was doing everything just to belong. If somebody say, "Hey, we like to wear red," oh, I like to wear red. Oh, we
Mm-hmm.
like to go to X, Y, and Z restaurant. Oh, I love that
Mm-hmm.
restaurant too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And once again, I ask myself, like, who am I? Who did God created me to be? Because I didn't know. So after Mona's passing, it's like all the veils and all, like, everything came off. And I'm like, here I am, Lord. Use me. Help me find my identity in you and you alone. And help me find my purpose. And I truly believe that is for the first time in my life that I have a clear picture of what's my life purpose. And everything that happened to me, my one of my mentors challenged me to say, look at it as everything that happened was for me, not to me. God allowed it so I can be where I'm at today and have a platform to help other ladies that are struggling and men.
That's beautiful, Mia. And it seems to me that if it's not done for you, then God can't make all things work together for the good, right?
Yeah.
Joseph says to his brothers, what you meant for evil, God did it for me. God meant it
Yes.
for good. And there's a
Yes.
mystery there. There's a mystery. God doesn't sin, He doesn't tempt anybody to sin against us. However, God is working even in the midst of other people sinning or tragedies or loss.
Yes.
And you have found that secret, haven't you?
Hmm. Yeah. And I'm not saying it was an easy road.
No.
Nothing about it was easy. But through it all, I was able to see God's grace in ways that I would have never seen it. I would have never had this growth and I would have never stepped into my purpose that God created me for if I wouldn't have went through what I went through.
Yes. And there's so many pieces that you've told us. But even that one piece, I mean, I know a lot of well meaning husbands that would have really resisted their wife being away for 11 months. But
Yes,
as hard as it was, I'm sure for Kenny,
it
he
was.
embraced it as an act of love to you and to God and to your precious sister.
And
When
he
I
had people, actually, also people from church, that they told me, like, your wife needs to stay home with you. That's her responsibility.
Mm-hmm,
And I
mm-hmm.
have people reaching out to me and say, you're losing your husband. You're going to end up
Mm.
losing your marriage. And I know they meant well,
Yes.
but he truly understood that that was a chapter in our life that will bring us closer to each other and closer to the Lord. And it did. It did in ways that we would have never experienced otherwise. It was an extremely hard season, but knowing that He supported me and He loved me unconditionally made things a little bit more bearable.
It certainly must have, Mia. And sometimes well meaning people try to apply
Yeah.
formulas or principles when a husband and wife just have to hear from God. You
Yes.
have to hear from God. We want you to be in unity. But when I listen to you talk, Mia, there is something so solid and so grounded in you. I can hear it in every sentence. I can see it in your face. You have went through the shaking. You have everything that can be shaken has been shaken. And God reveals the foundation through the shaking, and then of course, if even if there needs to be a repair to the foundation, God will help us with that too, which is beautiful.
Yes.
It really
Yes.
is. What are some of the things that you want people to get from this book when they read Buried Not Broken, which is a fabulous title?
Not to give up.
Don't
So, in
give
every
up.
single chapter, even when he highlights hardship or addiction or abuse or grief, every single chapter ends with some lessons that made us stronger and got us closer to the Lord. And he shows resilience. And every single one of us are going to go through some hardships in this life.
Mhm.
None of us are free from it. So, when that moment comes, if you haven't been there yet, just hold on close to the Lord and just don't give up. Because what's on the other side, there is something we could not put price on. And just be willing to learn and um, give to others what you've learned.
That's a those are some wonderful words. Mia, does your how do you finish your book? What's the ending of it? What's it like at the end?
I still cannot read the last chapter
Okay.
because extremely emotional for me. But last summer, we took a trip to Romania, and my kids, my husband's kids, they met my mom for the first time,
Oh,
and they met the family. So we talked about the importance of unity, the importance of family, and how we all gonna continue our sister's legacy, and we're gonna stay together to keep her memory alive. So the last chapter, it focuses on present, where we were at last summer, and we talked about the healing and the lessons we learned from her. But it's not over because the
okay.
second one is coming out on pre-orders in July. It'll be out in stores September 3rd.
Now, what's the title of the second one?
So the second one is second sunrise together, the couple's guide to trust, remarriage, and blended family. And I'm co-writing it with my husband, and highlights exactly what you mentioned, how extremely hard was for him as a man, as a
Yes.
husband, as a father, to say to his wife, "Oh yeah, go away for
Mm-hmm.
11 months. We'll
Mm-hmm.
be just
Mm-hmm.
fine." It
Mm-hmm.
highlights a lot of those moments and what we experience, and it's extremely raw because I came home, I was battling severe PTSD, and that added to the marriage stress. But through it all, it's extremely raw and extremely real. That in marriage you will have moments like that, but what you do with them is going to determine how strong your marriage is.
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. Will we turn on each other or will we turn to God? Will we help each other to grieve? help each other to forgive. I know years ago, I heard Max Lucado say just a small moment about marriage. And I think at the time he said, I've been married 35 years and something like that. The two most important things in marriage are forgiving and asking for forgiveness.
Yes.
Now, what he was explaining there is that grace has to keep flowing.
Yeah.
It has to keep flowing from me to my wife and from my wife to me. We know the source of grace is God, but it has to keep flowing. And it flows through the honesty, it flows through, uh, the ownership of things, and then, of course, the forgiveness. And and through a lot of tears too, right, Mia? I think
Yes.
there were a lot of tears.
Yes. Yes, they were. They were.
And
But
but
now people at church, there are people that said, "You guys are so weird. You're acting like you're in your honeymoon. You never go anywhere without each other. You're constantly holding hands and kissing." I said, just, and I was like, look, if you truly understood where God brought us from, then you will know why we're inseparable.
how did you
Yeah.
get the title?
So the first title, I'll go back a little bit. The first
Mhm.
title, Buried Not Broken,
Yes.
it was something what my mom used to always tell us when we experience abuse. She used to say that, they tried to bury us during the communist regime, but they didn't understood that we were seeds and we
Wow.
were planted ready to bloom.
Wow.
So I wanted to do Buried Not Broken because every single one of us, we're going through seasons in our life that we feel so broken. But
Mm.
the truth is, we're not broken, we're just buried.
Hmm.
And if you buried, any minute could be that moment where you're gonna start bloom. So I
Beautiful.
buried, not broken. The second one, um, so I went through grief. I lost my first husband, and my husband went through a divorce. But the way he grew up, it was like, divorce is wrong. You married, you stay forever. Well, it happened so it was to the point that there was no reconciliation, and I'm not allowed to talk about it um, due to our attorney advises not to.
Sure.
But he ended up with full custody of his kids. It was
Okay.
that to that extent. So when that happened, his pastor sent them a little card, and in that card said, "I am so sorry what you're going through, but I'm looking forward to the day when we're gonna rejoice because God has another a sunrise." It was so beautiful, and that
Like
was like
another
years
sunrise.
prior to us meeting us, of
Whoa.
even meeting each other. So we both looked at our lives and everything we endured. So we put second sunrise together, and that's our encouragement to people, like, nobody gets married to think they're gonna end up alone. We all
No.
getting married and we're thinking this is a lifetime. But sometimes life happens and we have no choice. No
No.
choice. It just happens. So just because that happened, that doesn't mean God is done with you. That doesn't mean you get put on a shelf and God
Hmm.
cannot use you. So we wanted people who experience that a season of singleness without having control on it to know, look, there is a second sunrise. You just have to trust the Lord. So we put a second sunrise together, the couple's guide to trust, rebuilding, and blended family. Because those are steps. If you remarry, if you're in a situation you can get remarried, you will face challenges, different type
Yes.
of challenges.
There's some unique challenges with
Yeah,
blended families, and there's such a need for teaching and coaching and mentoring in that area because all of us need hope.
yeah.
And there's so many blended families. Um, this has been so rich, Mia. What are a couple things that you'd like to make sure that our listeners hear before we finish up today, Mia?
So one of the first thing that I said, and I want to continue to push on that, like, um, don't give up. Don't give up. Reach out to your community. Reach out to somebody in church. And if you don't feel comfortable to reach out, just pray and ask God to show you the little moments that you're missing. Because if you just pray, you will see that God is going to send people in your life. And
That's
when you
true.
feel stuck, just do immediately the next step. You don't have to have this grand plan how you're going to survive it. Do just the immediate step. Hey, if that means surviving a 1 hour and drink your water or whatever, how that looks, just look immediately in front of you. What's the next step? Because God will take care of the rest. You just need to be willing to make those choices to move forward.
I love that. You
And
basically said three things: don't give up, don't go it alone, and God, what's the next step? Isn't it fascinating, Mia? You can look back on your life, and one of the things that you've found, because you've told us this in so many ways, is that you don't have to know 100 steps ahead. You just need to know the next step.
that's it. That's it. And the last one that I like to say, that no matter what you went through, God is not done with you. As long as you have a breath in your lungs, God has a purpose for your life. God is not done with you. You just need to be willing to listen and follow what He wants you to do to impact others. Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us from Tennessee.
Thank you so much for having me, Mark.
God bless you, Mia.
God bless you.
Thanks for being with us on Soul Sense. If something today resonated with you, take a moment, write it down, and reflect on it. And help us reach other people by subscribing, liking, leaving a comment, and sharing. We'll see you next time.